Benjamin Gert de Gopherbank, Saersche son von Tybola's father, is a member of the National Rifle Association, Bazookas for the Common Man, the Cato Institute, Citizens United, the founders True Blue Heritage Foundation, founded on and for Freedom No Factions Unity Forum, and the Traditional Values Coalition. He has established two organizations himself, the Honeybee Institute and the Cohort of Constitutional Adherents, holding multiple presidential terms in each and remaining presently on both groups' board of directors. Ben's father has been on classified FBI watch lists for years, granting him a free spritz of Diet Sprite at the quaint malt shop in town, and confirming for Ben's grandmother her decades-long suspicion that the Mars landings have been faked. Every CCA member is required to take an oath of allegiance to uphold the late U.S. Bill of Rights, quote, no matter the cost. Members additionally pledged to name one male child, preferably the eldest, after one of the first 6 presidents of the United States. Ben's father, in a meretricious sign of near monomaniacal commitment, and no less as an overt display of walk-the-walk leadership, took the rare step of applying this rule to both of his sons. He named his second son Benjamin George Jefferson Davis John Quincy Illinois Riverwalk Outback Walkabout, how about that, Franklin. Ben's father, full professor in the University of Idaho's Department of History and holder of the Barry M. Goldwater / Theodore W. Adorno Chair in Conflicting Political Ideologies, has served 2 terms as mayor of Preston, Idaho, founded an interior design company specializing in bathrooms, sub-specializing in toilets, with a fine focus on motion-censored lids, and prior to that, earned his PhD abroad in Eindhoven, following an undergraduate career at Utah State, studying the effects of Jean-Marie Le Pen's political legacy on his granddaughter's, Marion Maréchal, presidency. His dissertation analyzed the pros and cons of implementing French nationalist theories synthesized with the social views of Lorenzo Snow and Boethius in northern Utah / southeastern Idaho. His view on power is modeled after Cincinnatus. He has termed it pharyngeal reflex authoritarianism. Ben's father attempted a coup a few decades ago. It failed. The effort to create a new nation in the aforementioned region devolving quickly into a bungled affair / hullabaloo, resulting in myriad arrests. Charges range from disturbing the peace to treason. The governors of Utah and Idaho, in a legendary show of clemency backed by presidential permission, issued a joint pardon to Ben's dad and his co-conspirators. They waived all charges in exchange for a written agreement from Ben's father never again to engage in, quote, subversive revolutionary activity, nor promulgate any propagandic literature, merchandise, or media aimed at the incitement of anti-government passions. Ben's father signed the pledge. A framed copy hangs in Salt Lake City's Leonardo Museum. The half-assed revolt became a lightning bolt, flash in the pan, cause celeb, making Ben's father the celebrity in Idaho, Utah, and far beyond practically overnight. That's how he ended up on the University of Idaho faculty. Yes, he had a PhD, a smattering of conference presentations, some publications too. He even had an article appear in the hyper-peer-reviewed, hyper-pretentious, and grandiloquent North American Western Hemisphere Historical Review. But here's the thing, listen. There is a theoretical max within academia to which credentials really matter, and while few can pinpoint the line of demarcation, Ben's dad had crossed the threshold. Sure, credentials matter, for the peons. Ben's dad was a star, not an academic star, but a real one. A modern Western U.S. amalgamation of Patrick Henry, Robin Hood, Robert E. Lee, Robert F. Williams, and the Thracian gladiator Spartacus. Ben's dad had surpassed the usual rungs of promotion and was appointed full professor his first day on campus. His elevation to the Goldwater Adorno Chair came in the last 3 years. Since then, Ben's father has not stopped silently seething, the beneath-the-surface type of resent-laden anger ready to bubble to the cone's brim, threatening Vesuvius at the slightest provocation. Source? Adorno. Duh. Said farcically? Yes. But with grains of truth underlying the joke? Ibid. Ben, sometime during his college years, changed his surname to Tyvola. The literal Czech translation of Tyvola is "you ox." The name is a multi-layered homage to a certain piece of medieval legend involving Thomas Aquinas, Albert the Great, and ambition to bellow, and no less a shout-out to his Czech-born great-grandfather Alois Jindřich Novotný, who went by the nickname Krásný Knedlík. Ben's father was somewhat perturbed his son had changed his name, not overly so, more like disquieted without discombobulation. And for what it's worth, according to him, nothing relieves pent-up tension like heading out back on your 100-acre property and setting up 6-foot-tall stuffed purple dinosaurs. Some mascot from a late 20th century children's program, these specimens equipped with fluorescent green bellies, as if naturally selected for target practice, and blowing them to smithereens with Soviet-era RPGs he had recently found in the back of a long cobwebbed-over storage unit left over from the brief days of the fledgling NRDD, the New Republic of Deseret and Dixie. Ben's mother didn't care about the name change. Her focus is largely restricted to social justice, redistributive, tax-based income egalitarianism, marigolds, fair trade coffee, Jack Kerouac's writings, and free love theory. A little while ago, she took up a curious hobby, the atomic age. Verifiably immersed herself in it. It was all she did, really. Read and watched a bunch of stuff about nuclear deterrence, and Ben remembers thinking that his dad not thinking that was weird was weird. Ben's mom, herself an academic professor in the proteinly pliable interdisciplinary department of post-gender constructed anti-binary self-automated personhood studies at the U of I, likes to take long walks with Ben into the Palouse near sunset, quite often down to the Bill Chipman Trailhead mile marker 7. The beautifully paved, biked, and foot traffic trail right off the UI campus near the intersection of Perimeter Drive over Paradise Creek. A river in miniature that can too take one where one needs to get going. A trail, that slightly downgrades those 7 miles from there to Pullman, Washington, traveling in handsome directness, snug kept between the Moscow-Pullman Highway on the right and the old Moscow Road dirt and gravel slow trek slog to the left. The Idaho-Washington border, but a stone's throw away from mile marker 7, by the way, the outer limits of Moscow, Idaho, just about straddling the Washington state line, FYI, she porting a steaming mug of chamomile tea in hand. Ben's mom likes to ask her son questions like, who would emerge victorious in a well-lit, white-walled room featuring the ACLU in one corner, Morris D's opposite, Betty Friedan next to D's, and participant number 4, an unknown you-picker, knock-yourself-out 19th century feminist, the one non-negotiable stipulation being she had to have been in attendance at the Seneca Falls conference. Ben usually says he does not understand the question. It is nice to take walks with his mom, though. Ben's mom once struggled with addiction to acetaminophen and ibuprofen. Over time, she also developed dependency to fluoxetine. She has been diagnosed, in some cases multiple times, with ephophobia, mythophobia, theologicophobia, gelatophobia, doxophobia, decidophobia, and agoraphobic nucleomytophobia. Thankfully, all this passed from her life a few years ago. Unexplainably, it just passed. The addictions and the fears. Ben has an older brother. His name is Steve. Steve Adams, John Monroe, George Jefferson, Thomas Tank, Howitzer, Holster, Franklin. The boys, Steve, 4 years the senior, enjoyed a rather typical Western First World childhood, replete with team sports, piano lessons, camping trips into the River of No Return wilderness, Boy Scouts, and baking lessons from Grandma Franklin. Ben took pleasure from eating as much of the raw chocolate chip cookie dough as he could before Grandma placed it under the butter-greased sheets, not primarily for the taste, but rather because it was enjoyable to see Steve, school marmish about rules, seemingly ex utero, get really pissed off. Grandma Franklin would squint her eyes and utter her go-to response when trying to mollify Gransonian ructions. Honey, groundhog sneak up the back of your pant leg and scurry, scurry, scurry and bite you on the bottom, oh so extra bextra hard? Steve is a practical man. Practical as in a closed circuit oscillating from poles labeled bland, tedious to humdrum bromidic. The kind of boring that would make a person present one's mouth 5 centimeters from a recently dried wall painted white and dive in hard, biting and gnawing and chewing and gorging into that wall as though it were a facade of coconut-flavored butterscotch cotton candy, and this just-so-flavored wall piece was a foundational component of nutrition, a building block of life in a category very near water, and one had been deprived of this necessary sustenance for 5 days while marooned on an island in the South Pacific, all in lieu of having to lock engage with the ennui at hand. Steve attended the University of Idaho because it was close to home and familiar. He took a job in Pocatello because it was his only in-state offer. Philadelphia is scary. Its denizens once booed Santa Claus, so who knows what those people are capable of. Steve is an engineer. It's good work. The idea of struggling to make ends meet, especially in the classically pretentious artistic five-borough style replete with the daily worn XXL rose pompadour sweater, whilst looking out a dirty studio apartment window, gaze fixed ostensibly on the charcoal-colored fire escape immediately present, but really sent out far beyond onto gold-tinged, translucent horizons, the lyrics writing themselves. Even though capacious, imaginative license is taken as the real horizons here, those available to natural sense perception are as overcast as the present internal condition is beyond his ken. So too is excitement, variety, creativity, originality, cookie-cutter liberationism, and non-robotic, non-monotonous voice inflection. Steve married a fellow U of I alum, Susie, nee Quartzbuckler. The couple lives in Boise with their 3 sons. Steve is Treasury Captain of the Boise CCA and harbors ambitions of opening a sister office in Elko, Nevada. He is second lieutenant to the 3rd Correspondent Specialized Assistant in the Understudy Vice Admiral's Office at the Honeybee Institute South, also in Boise, and is currently exploring options for a Bazookas for the Common Man focus group. It is possible Boise may prove too left-leaning for such an enterprise. Bazookas. Steve is a good older brother. Like many, he is a critical one. In his opinion, Ben has wasted many a talent. Steve believes Ben is a loser. Ben, for his part, would rather undergo metamorphosis into a piece of lichen on I-84 West, destination Portland. Afterwards, on to State Route 6 through the state forest, same named as the city with the cheese factory so close to the Oregon coast. Then spend a day living Steve's life, having Steve's job, thinking Steve's thoughts. Ben loves Steve and Steve loves him. As with most brothers, this isn't a question of love. Who is right here? Who can judge? What is truth, after all? Is Steve right because Ben, mathematics prodigy that he was, still may be, turned down full academic scholarships to MIT, Northwestern, and Georgia Tech in favor of a path undoubtedly less traveled? One that could finally get Robert Frost to shut up, or at least admit that he, Frost, stole that whole 2 paths in the woods shtick from Dante, the Divine Comedy being both the world's first self-help book. I'm the main character, me, Dante, not some mythological figure a long time away in some mythological past. Me, therefore you, all of us. And cementing Dante's credentials for being the West's first true feminist, for eschewing the lingua latina of the forums and non-Greek philosophical discourses in favor of the Florentine Tuscan vernacular of the then Italian coming into being. He made sure everyone can read it. The female folk too, oh girl, for it was meant to be the Summa in verse, self-help for all the selves themselves having found themselves sunk in sin, and gasping for the air of Peter's bark's deck above the waters and having their arrived safe, found, because Dante told them in plain words that life was not some random riddle of disparate leaves scattered to the wind, but rather love fashioned by the one who is himself love itself. Does Ben's 153 IQ, near fluency in more than a handful of actual languages, dialects need not apply, photographic memory, and a PhD candidate-like grasp of European history place some burdens of necessity upon him? Is he an idiot for not using these talents to excel in academia, business, law, medicine, or other? Is he a dumbass? Is he a block-headed, utterly dapillated, dolt-dunce, ding-batted moron? Is he a dumbass? Is he? Yes or no? Or is Ben some type of amplificagacious genius savant? Is Ben presciently wise in understanding that rejecting such presumably more accurately assumed gilded opportunities meant he'd freed himself from a soul-numbing path from top-tier college to premier graduate program? Worse still, maybe worst of all, the law school to JD to 4 times microwave-heated Jamaican jerk chicken sounding clerkship. Ah, wait, yes. the medical clinical clerkship, which comes with the expert supervision of a, quote, health practitioner on the side in lieu of the fries you really wanted. Yes, that's the rock bottom worst, dog. To six-figure salary job, to suburban house, to probing internet search entitled, "Why am I so depressed?" To medication, then more drugs and pills and lozenges, even unto medical identity theft, so as to forge prescription signatures, before a final release of techno-visual lobotomy by way of now more than ample-sized hind cube plopped into a plush couch with a lukewarm, perhaps even tepid drink in hand, staring at a 100 plus inch entertainment device called plasma. Although hardly worthy of that golden intravascular liquid, that cell and protein carrier with a density of 1.025 grams per milliliter and listed on the WHO list of essential medicines, don't you know? Consuming who knows what any and every time he is not aware of being himself consumed by forlornness. Or is Ben like one of those perennially new, as in haha, yeah, knew my ass, oldest shit in the book, new age philosophers who, in choosing to essentially quit life in favor of sitting on a park bench all day watching pigeons, fashion themselves avant-garde and enlightened and above all free, yet remain nothing more than talent-wasting losers watching pigeons, so proud of having achieved a step or two backwards in human devolution, they don't even feed the pigeons, for that would violate their inviolable commitment to passivity. The heartless bastards don't even feed the pigeons. Who knows what is truth? What is true or his truth is that Ben chased his version of the American dream, quote, like a butter-greased bear after 10 pounds of ground beef at the end of a slip and slide on a hot and humid Winona, Mississippi July evening, as the Amero-hedonist philosopher Diddy Davis put it in his seminal work, Humanity's Search for the Dreamscape. Davis was obsessed with the evanescent idea of pure happiness. Years of research culminated in him defining it as undiluted sensory indulgence. The most recognizable and oft-quoted part of Humanity's Search speaks of this as a leap from a firm, two-footed stance into a, quote, sea of sensory short-circuitry, of every possible sense being switched on at once, 1,000 light bulbs popping on, click, at the exact same moment. An analysis illustrative of Ben's complete commitment to follow his own path in life. As Davis put it, having reached the pinnacle of introspective, post-outward, carefree, nice, cognizant wokeness, he was prepared finally to sum it up. It, once and for all. Quote, "Boy, y'all don't even know. Your grandpappy gonna pull out that fiddle and sit right down the front porch with all them grandchildren for a blazing setting sun against the purple sky. No cattywampus about it now. And your grandmama bringing that sweet potato pie around yonder with the coffee and the cream and the sugar and the honey and the muscadines and the big barkers too. Oh, woo wee, yes sir, I done taken that train Nolans long time ago, get myself here. This night, tonight, y'all listen up real good. Beale Street good, cause y'all we up in Memphis now. Y'all listen up to real good now and don't brood, cause mood? Ah, yeah, buddy." End quote. But about Ben's chasing of the American dream. 18 years old and free of parental consent, Ben embarked for East Southwestern, South Northeastern, West North American University of the Arts and Logic, an independent think tank type college nestled deep into the New Mexican desert. The centerpiece of ESSNWNAU-AL, pronounced SWAL colloquially. The centerpiece of SWAL's educational model is the construction of a final project. The goal is developing an original product, in reality a banal novelty good for making money, and by design, little else. If it can sell, it'll do well. By us, to get people to buy us and it in the US.